And just a little bit about Headwaters. Headwaters is a foundation, community foundation. We fund social, racial, economic, and environmental justice issues in Minnesota. And we also fund in Wisconsin through our Fund of the Sacred Circle grant cycle. And then the other thing that we do, and why you're here today, is our capacity building efforts, educating the community. This is our movement building series, and this is probably the fourth one that we've done in this series. And just a FYI, the next two that are coming up, we're actually flipping them. So on your blue sheet, From Poverty to Prosperity will be in March, and the Getting to the Root of Environmental Organizing will be in April. So I know you want to be at both, so it really doesn't matter. So today we have Joan Vanhala from the Alliance for Metropolitan Stability and Maren McDonell from Harrison Neighborhood Association. And what I love about these two organizations is that it gives an example of the continuum of organizations that Headwaters funds. Grassroots organizing from Harrison, a very neighborhood-based organization, and then the Alliance for Metropolitan Stability, which is, really what we call an intermediary, an organization or a coalition who helps organizations to become stronger, helps them in their organizing efforts, and is just at the other continuum of what we think will help us have a stronger Minnesota in building this movement. So,
okay, Joan Vanhala. I'm a coalition organizer at the Alliance for Metropolitan Stability, and the Alliance is a member organization, and Transit for Livable Communities is a member. And we have 26 member groups, and we work on regional equity, racial equity issues, on infrastructure investments, such as transit ways, affordable housing, environmental issues, land use planning, land use issues. So as a coalition organizer, I did start as a neighborhood organizer, which is what Annie was alluding to, but it's sort of like organizing organizers to come together and bring a regional perspective to a lot of the issues that impact local communities. We don't jump in on local organizing efforts unless we're invited in. So Harrison invited us in to support them in the work around the proposed rail storage yard that's related to the interchange, a downtown project in Minneapolis. But before we go there, I just want to say that our region is planning to exponentially grow its transitway system. You all know that Hiawatha has been built. Central Corridor is in construction right now. And I know I saw Metric here earlier, but I worked on Central Corridor with Stops For Us Coalition to ensure that the environmental justice communities on East University Avenue had access to the LRT line by securing 3 additional stations at Western, Victoria, and Hamlin. And so through our coalition organizing efforts there, we leveraged a $16.5 million investment as part of the Central Corridor. These transitways are very expensive projects. Central Corridor is close to $1 billion. And then the next that's in line to be built is the Southwest Light Rail Transit. It will go from downtown Minneapolis out to Eden Prairie. It's currently moving forward into preliminary engineering, where they put together the specific specific engineering plans for the construction of the line. The other lines that are being planned are the Bottineau Transitway, which will go through North Minneapolis. And if you're from Jordan, you would probably be very interested to know that Hennepin County received a big grant from Pew Charitable Trust to do a health impact assessment along the Bottineau corridor. So if you're interested in healthy eating, that would be a really good thing to find out more about and figure out a way that the community groups that you're working on can inform that health impact assessment. I've also worked with North Minneapolis residents on ensuring that there's a community voice in that planning process. And we have the Gateway Corridor, which is also being planned. It'll go from downtown St. Paul out to Hudson, Wisconsin along the I-94 corridor. And then if you go online to the Metropolitan Council, you'll find a really big plan and a very complex map, 2030 transit plan map with many, not only LRT, but bus rapid transit and commuter rail. And the commuter rail issue and the LRT issue is what's really impacting the Harrison neighborhood. So for commuter rail, in planning is the Red Rock line, which goes from Hastings to St. Paul, and would come into downtown St. Paul, but also the plan is that it would make it all the way to downtown Minneapolis. You also have I know it starts to get really complicated after a while, but I'm just setting the stage on what kind of infrastructure investments we're looking at in the next 20 years in our region. So there's also the Northern Lights Express, which would be a high-speed rail from downtown Minneapolis up to Duluth. And I was reading in the newspaper today that the plans for the high-speed rail from Chicago to Minneapolis are moving forward, and they just got their money to do the environmental study, which is a really important part of the phase of the planning of those projects. So what does all this mean for Harrison?
Well, before we go to Harrison, because we're going to drill down, can you just mention the work on Central Corridor really showed, not locally, but then the federal government,
right,
that we could actually engage communities in a way that we get them at the ground level. And so, you were talking about all of those lines coming in, and there's money that is going to be going towards that. Can you talk a little bit about the communities of engagement process?
Yeah, there's another layer to this big complex picture. It's called the Corridors of Opportunity. Our region received a $5 million HUD Sustainable Communities Grant from the federal government, along with a $16 million Living Cities grant for affordable housing, bricks and mortar investments, and combined together, that comes from a consortium of national private foundations. So combined, that came together to create corridors of opportunity. And within that structure is something called the Community Engagement Team, of which Russ Adams and I are part of, and the Alliance is deeply involved in. Within that, the HUD grant is $750,000 to be dedicated for outreach and community engagement. And the Community Engagement Team made a commitment, and I think it really reflects the Alliance's commitment towards supporting grassroots leaders and local leaders and being in the front, that money goes directly to local communities. The members of the Community Engagement Team did not take any of that money for our administrative costs of providing the organizational structure to make those grants happen. So we had our first round this summer, and granting was made to quite a few of the corridors that I just mentioned to you. I think it was a total of 10 groups, Russ? Yeah. Total of 10 groups that received funds, and there'll be a second round and final round in June, I believe, will be the approximate deadline. And so I think it really reflects the value not only of the Alliance, but of many of the groups that have worked around transitway planning, as how important it is that local communities have a voice and are included in the decision making and can thereby get the benefits out of these major infrastructure investments. These, if you think of each of these lines costing about $1 billion, and it's all our taxpayer dollars, well, then local communities better benefit. And so the environmental justice aspect of transportation is very significant. And through our work on Central Corridor, we found that the federal government, the current federal administration, really takes environmental justice issues very seriously. And we found them to be a very valuable ally in elevating environmental justice issues on the Central Corridor, and we're looking forward to making sure that they're our ally as we're moving forward and working with Harrison around the commuter rail storage issue.